All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. With Notre Dame's run to the national championship game, so much has been made about their football independence. This season, the Fighting Irish were one of just three schools that are still football independent, and that number will be decreasing soon with Massachusetts set to join the Mid American Conference next season, while Connecticut has been trying to get to the Big 12 for the last couple of years. Now, once upon a time, that room of football independence could have formed a league themselves. It was about 40 years ago. We were talking about the likes of Miami, West Virginia, Florida State, Boston College, Penn State, and several other prominent football programs that were without a conference home. But clearly, times have changed as schools lobby now more than ever for television money, which is easier to attain in the bigger, powerful conferences. And as all of these former football independents have gotten on the conference bandwagon, Notre Dame still stands alone, and that's quite fine with them. Notre Dame's contract with NBC goes back more than 30 years now. Okay. And we're talking about a situation that when Notre Dame did get that contract with NBC, it was a game changer because the school's football program in itself is a brand and it's a conference to their own. Now, several conferences over the years have tried to partner up or have tried to get Notre Dame rather to partner up with them. But the Fighting Irish, to their credit, they know how to work the room. And at the end of the day, they simply make things work for themselves. You think about it, because once upon a time, Notre Dame played several schools from the Big East every year, as the Fighting Irish were a part of that conference in every sport except football. Notre Dame's current deal with the ACC is they play 5 games a year against various schools from the league while still being able to maintain their football independence. And Notre Dame, to their credit, they've been shrewd, okay? Because you look at it, one more game against the ACC, and that would mean that the Irish would have to join that league. But this now still allows Notre Dame to get a taste of the gate financially from the ACC while also staying as a football independent. And you look at that NBC money, we're talking about one of the biggest networks in the nation. And yes, I know things are different now, football wise, the landscape from when Notre Dame first got this deal with NBC. But nonetheless, everybody's on TV now. I totally get it. But it's still Notre Dame and it's still NBC. And I guarantee you, if NBC didn't give Notre Dame the money, one of these other prominent sports leagues would pardon me, sports networks rather, would go out there and give Notre Dame a slot. Okay, plain and simple. So the topic of Notre Dame's football independence was brought up recently during the lead up to the Orange Bowl as the Irish were preparing to meet Penn State. And of course, Penn State head coach James Franklin was and has been lobbying for more uniformity at his joint press conference with Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman in regards to all schools playing the same amount of games, the same amount of conference games, and all teams being in a league. Now, the question is going to be, does James Franklin make a valid point? He does, okay, because as college football is adapting to a more of a pro style model with their playoff format, the NILs, the transfer portal, the whole shebang, it is wise to have everybody on the same page. But at the end of the day, Notre Dame's still unique, and here's why. So each postseason format that we've seen, and I've talked about this before, they've all been agreed upon by all of the powers that be, whether it was the BCS, the 14 playoff format, and now the 12-team playoff format. And all of those formats have always factored in and accounted for Notre Dame. And again, it's always been agreed upon they get to play in the BCS championship game. And that happened in 2012 when they faced Alabama. In the 14 playoff era, we saw the Fighting Irish get to the playoff twice. And now, here in the very first year of the 12-team playoff format, Notre Dame is just 60 football minutes away from their first national championship on the gridiron in nearly 40 years. Now, everybody at the table agreed to Notre Dame's opportunity, and so did Notre Dame, as they know in the current model for the 12-team and eventually 14-team playoff, which is coming right down the pipe, that they're never going to get a first round bye, as they will not be a conference champion. And that's important because Notre Dame came into this tournament as the seventh seed, in spite of the fact that they finished the season ranked third in the AP poll. But here comes a real kicker. As Thursday's Orange Bowl win for Notre Dame guarantees them a $20 million check for getting to the national championship game. And that's 20 million that Notre Dame does not have to share with anybody due to the fact that they're not in a conference, which is much better than them having to slice that 16 or even 18 ways like they'd have to do if they were in the SEC or Big Ten, respectively. And then the other big conferences, the ACC has 17 members, the Big 12 has 16 members. Okay. So love them or hate them. But Notre Dame could have easily rolled over this season following that shocking home loss to Northern Illinois back in September, but they didn't. And they knew that their backs were against the wall. And they've answered the call, as they've run the table to finish the regular season. Were one of the top 12 teams in the rankings and dominated everyone on their schedule, as they had to do so due to the fact that, again, they don't have the luxury of a conference championship game. Don't hate the player, but hate the game instead, as Notre Dame has played by the rules that were attached to them, but it's the people that have a different avenue ahead of them who want to complain. Now, if Notre Dame had lost 2 games this season, we're not having this conversation. Again, they went out there, they took care of their business. And of course, the same thing can be said for Boise State, as they were the group of 5 representative. Now, James Franklin does make a strong point about uniformity, but you look at it, and I get it, because, college football is looking at a more pro style model. But look at the collegiate aspect for college basketball. Nobody says anything when the NCAA tournament rolls around and some of these schools do not play the same amount of games. All conference tournaments in basketball are not created the same, and all of the teams don't play the same amount of games. But does it really affect seeding? No, because it's all moot on Selection Sunday. Now, the people outside of Notre Dame's hallowed halls in South Bend who want Notre Dame to join a conference are just going to have to stew on it, because the fact that Notre Dame just got themselves a check for 20 million is only going to slow down, rather, the conferences or the league, the school's thought process for them joining a conference, if they were ever to do it at all. Because more money for Notre Dame means more notoriety for the school, as if they really needed any. And this run to the title game, along with the fact that their head coach Marcus Freeman is doing a tremendous job, is only going to help their recruiting. Notre Dame was already a national brand. They're blue blood. They are woven in the fabric that is college football. They've got fans and they have alumni everywhere. Okay. And you just wait and see on the 20th of this month at the national championship game in Atlanta. You're going to see plenty of red out there representing Ohio State, but you just wait and see how much green that you're going to see in the stands representing the Fighting Irish, because they are going to have plenty of notable alumni as well as fans in attendance. Now, at the end of the day, Notre Dame's football independence is kind of like the Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys hosting games on Thanksgiving Day in the NFL. It's sacrilege at this point. And Notre Dame's football independence is part of their program's identity. Okay. And I reference the Lions and the Cowboys because, of course, once upon a time when the NFL pushed the notion of a Thanksgiving Day game, those are 2 teams that really stood at the forefront. Of course, the Lions long before the Cowboys. And then once everybody else sat back and saw how lucrative it was, or like just basically putting your team in the spotlight. Everybody else wanted a taste of it. Now, of course, we get a Thanksgiving Day triple header, and then of course all the Thursday games throughout the season. But nonetheless, all of those other teams that joined the conference, Notre Dame, that were independents, Notre Dame stood by their morals, their values, what they believed in, whatever. And of course, getting that deal with NBC really helped things, but it's part of their fabric. And of course, the question is going to be, will Notre Dame ever join a football conference? You can never say never in this world, but I simply don't see it happening anytime soon. Because again, the money that they get in the playoff that they don't have to share with other people, and then the network money that they get. And again, I guarantee you, if Notre Dame and NBC, for whatever reason, couldn't get an agreement done on a new deal, I guarantee you a CBS or somebody like that would definitely want to come in and scoop them up. And again, that's money that they're not sharing with any other avenue. It's Notre Dame. Okay, they are a big part of the college football landscape. And when Notre Dame is good, okay, and that iconic fight song and the gold helmets, it's good for college football. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So there's going to be people out there who are going to moan and cry and complain about Notre Dame's football independence. They don't have to go through a conference championship game. Guess what? Those people are always going to complain about something because people complained about the BCS format once it was agreed upon. And, there were different factors about the possibility of a Notre Dame getting to the championship game, a possibility of the SEC having two teams in a championship game. We had all of those. And it was the same deal with the 14 playoff, and it's the same thing now. But the bottom line is Notre Dame agreed to this like everybody else. They took care of their business. You just got to deal with it and accept the fact that Notre Dame is an independent entity in the world of college football, and it's going to be like that for quite some time. But, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, also, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out. Drop a line to be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, and I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.